Welcome to Walking with Jesus Bible Study. We're going to be in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 16. Ooh, that out the way. There it is. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God has fallen from heaven, and has burnt up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I am only escaped alone to tell thee. And I'll repeat that. While he was yet speaking, there came also another, and said, The fire of God is fallen from heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Poor Job, I mean. Whew. If we could all just have the faith and the strength that Job has. Because just while he was discussing some terrible news already, and was devising a plan to recover, his servant then comes right on over and tells him another thing. And then while he was beginning to concept what had just happened, between this happening and then this happening, here comes another one. Some even more devastating. He's lost everything. His family, his house, his way of living, his life, his livestock, his servants. And back in those days, the reason why they was called servants wasn't because they was enslaved. It was because certain people didn't have enough money. So they would go. Basically what it was is it was their job. Just like we have jobs now to work at factories or at fast food places or at this corporation or this company. It was no different back in those days. That's why it speaks a lot about having servants in the Bible. A lot of people like to confuse the servants with slavery, but in actuality it's called occupation. If they didn't have enough money, or they had to borrow something from somebody, or they would go work in the fields so they could provide for the family. That's why they was called servants, because they was paid. And in those times there wasn't much money getting thrown around, but you got paid with food. Some of them got to live on the land. Well, you guys can come live here in your family, and you tend to my fields, and y'all could have, this is how it went. It was jobs. It was occupation. So you got to know he had to have a sense of responsibility and care and love for those people, because they just didn't come and go like how people do jobs now, just come and leave here and just go work at another place. I mean, these things where people had them for like a long time. That was their lifestyle. That was their job until the end of time. And just after all of that, here comes three supposedly friends to conversate with them, but they didn't. They just sit there in silence. Then he gets these boils because Satan was mad because he couldn't get him to curse God. He couldn't get him to turn off away from God and walk off that path and blame him. He asked God why. Because he couldn't understand. He knew he was doing right. The scriptures say that he was right and just. Oh, but those three friends, just like the Pharisees and all the negative Nancys and all the Karens out there, oh girl, she's going through this hard time. Must be this and that. They just love to gossip. Christians really love to gossip. And it is like one of the big sins that God says do not do. Because it's just more than you just spreading false information. You're just crediting. Because not only you gossip, but now you're being a false witness to somebody, which is another sin. You're committing more than one sin by gossiping. You're ruining people's lives. A lot of people have no clue and no understanding what God is putting them through. But they sure do like to guess, and they sure do like to judge. And that's a big thing. When people sure do love to judge. And there's only one true judge, and that's God. Yes, we're supposed to hold people accountable. We're supposed to expose fraud, but we're not supposed to judge them. And we're not supposed to expose them without correction. And that's what another big mistake where everybody's out here exposing, but they ain't correcting. They ain't backing up with scriptures and proof, and then trying to get those people who have been exposed lead back to Christ. It says to do that. When you expose them, you're supposed to lead them back to the correct way. Y'all just out here judging and exposing and ain't giving a helping hand. A lot of these churches, man, they're made for God's people, those who need him. When the Pharisees asked Jesus why he was hanging out with these sinners, he said it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. Where else would he be? Just like when his parents couldn't find him, where else would he be but in his father's temple doing his father's business? The church is too more worried about themselves, and how they look and how they appear to other people, that they're not worried about the sick that's coming into those churches. You got a lot of people out there that drink, that won't come to church because the church will like, oh, you're an alcoholic. Well, where is he supposed to be? Isn't he supposed to be in that pew? Oh no, look at this prostitute coming over here. You can see there's one of these posts going on about where this pastor was sitting there talking about this lady needed to change her clothes before coming up into church. Where is the prostitute supposed to go? And where they're supposed to automatically, if God hadn't fixed them and healed them yet, what was they supposed to wear? It didn't say anywhere in the scriptures that those people, before they came to God for healing and for to be blessed, that they went and got clean and changed their clothes. No, they came to God as they were. He says, come as me as you are. And some of you people take that to, not literally, but thinking that, oh, well, I don't have to get all nicely dressed up for God. But you'll go out to that club and get all nice and fancy before you go out to that club. You get all nice and fancy and get dressed up before you go on that date or what have you not. But when it comes to going to church, he says, oh, girl, he told me to come as I am. That's the wrong thing. Come as you are, as in you are sick, and he will heal you. So yes, it does say that you are supposed to care about what you wear and be presentable. Those who are already healed, those that are already his children, should have that respect to their father. But those who have not been fixed yet need to come as you are. And then those that already be fixed don't need to sit there and judge. You can't sit there and say, you can't be choosing who God can heal and fix. When you shoo these people out of your churches, you're playing judge on who God can heal and fix. It's not up to you. God says everybody. He's come to save souls. He has come to save souls, and our job is to help him build up his kingdom. And how can we collect more souls if we're shooing them away? Because you're being too prejudiced. And it doesn't have to do with just being the color of the skin. A lot of you people are being prejudiced of the fact that they're rich or poor. Or if they're got some kind of sickness, being a drug addict, being a gambler, a sex addict. What if that person just too much milk? Oh, man, that's all that boy's doing is chugging milk. He don't need to be coming around here always smelling like milk or cheese. It's not up to you. It's for God to fix, not for you to judge. We are all going to be judged by God on Judgment Day. That's when the judgment needs to be placed. Is when God is sitting there being judged. Because he's the only one that can judge righteously and judge right. It's just our job just to plant seeds and catch them. He will sort it out later. but we need to keep them there.